Thank you very much, Radhika. I feel very privileged to be invited on this panel by Friends of Socialist China and the International Manifesto Group. And we've already had fantastic presentations. I'm sure that what I'm going to say is going to repeat what's already been said, but perhaps with a bit of a twist here and there. Today, we see the rise of the Global South and South-South cooperation as the driving forces in a progressive multipolar trend. This trend can be traced back to the Bandung Conference of 1955, convened in a moment of hiatus following the French defeat in Vietnam, with US-led forces stalemated by Chinese and North Koreans in Korea. Delegates from 29 African and Asian countries seized the time to seek strength through unity against the Cold War pressure to divide the anti-colonial struggles. Their stated aims of cooperation embraced the 5 principles of peaceful coexistence, which have run through the twists and turns of the anti-imperialist movement up to today. These principles did not fall out of the skies. In 1949, the People's Republic of China, drawing on China's own negative experience of imperialism, adopted a different type of foreign policy based on equality, mutual benefit, and mutual respect for territory and sovereignty. It was this that Foreign Minister Zhou Enlai brought to Nehru as a basis for agreement on how to handle the all-important India-China relationship. In the imperialist Cold War mindset at the time, India's peacefully negotiated route to independence was to be pitted against armed revolution exemplified by China. Which route now would the rising anti-colonial movements in Africa follow? Bandung stood against division for a new way of mutual support, whatever route to independence was taken. The 5 principles drew out what was implicit in the UN Charter and its call for peace, adding to the commitment to sovereign equality and territorial integrity, those of mutual benefit, non-interference, mutual non-aggression, and peaceful coexistence. It is important to understand that these are principles, not policy. Existing in the realm of aspiration and vision, how they are put into practice depends on material circumstances. The idea of principle, or yuanzi in Chinese, is that of foundation serving to guide behavior. For example, its socialist state is based on the 4 cardinal principles of adhering to the leadership of the Communist Party, Marxism, Leninism, Mao Zedong thought, and so on. In a similar way, the 5 principles are the ground on which the world's many varied states can work out, through negotiation, the specifics of how to relate to each other in given circumstances. In the hurly-burly of imperialist and anti-imperialist struggle between states, the application of the principles has only ever been partial, fragmented, and uneven, most consistently pursued by China. So over the decades, the 5 principles have evolved. From opposition to European colonialism in the 1950s to the non-aligned movement in the 1960s, which exposed the neo-colonial order framed by the US and its North-South divide. Then moving on to formulate demands for a new international economic order of mutual benefit in the 1970s. The trend grew with countries from Central and South America and the Caribbean joining. In the 1980s and 1990s, interests diverged between the newly industrializing and deeply indebted states. Nevertheless, developing countries began to promote South-South cooperation through regional organizations such as ASEAN, Mercosur, the African Union, going on to link into cross-regional organizations such as the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, the Forum of Africa, China-Africa Cooperation, the China-Arab States Economic Forum, and so on, in which China and the 5 principles began to play a more prominent role. With a broad-based global south now emerging, China has articulated the 5 principles into 3 global initiatives: the Global Development Initiative, articulating the principle of mutual benefit; the Global Security Initiative, drawing together the 2 main demands for peace, disarmament and imperialism, into a common security which sees security as indivisible. This understanding that no state can make itself secure at the expense of others was the basis for China's peace proposal on the Ukraine conflict, requiring that the security concerns of both sides be taken on board. The third initiative covers the peaceful coexistence of different civilizations through mutual respect and learning, not the imposition of universal values. These initiatives, taken together, comprehensively address the equality in relations between states, advancing an alternative rules or principles-based order, which contrasts with that of liberal internationalism, in which the principles of democracy, human rights, and individual freedom override sovereignty, equality, mutual benefit, and mutual respect for security. Today, the Global Security Initiative is supported by 120 countries, with 110 supporting the China-Brazil-Ukraine Peace Initiative, and 100 countries and international organizations support the Global Development Initiative. Today, the global-based liberal international order is in collapse. The West's leadership is in crisis. In the first place, its moral authority finally died a death, along with 50,000 Palestinians. Biden's crusade for democracy against autocracy, pouring weapons into Ukraine, has failed spectacularly. Secondly, Trump's about turn on Putin has upended the world security order with the US as guarantor, plunging the Europeans into a fit of manic rearmament. Then thirdly, there are Trump's tariffs, causing the biggest disruption of global trade seen in nearly a century, launching the US into an economic trial of strength with China. Weaponizing trade, he seems to seek to divide not just the global South, but the world, and that is dividing everybody just from China. His tactic will surely incentivize developing countries to intensify trade within and between their own regions. Much depends on China. Can it now bring its potentially vast market into play to sustain a counter growth? In the short term, things will be difficult, but in the longer term, for countries in the global South to choose China is to choose to leapfrog into a digitized and green future. For Trump, multipolarity is the law of the jungle, as Ben pointed out. But for the global South, the search is on for a rules-based order of equality and win-win. Europe is on the horns of a dilemma. It is too far behind technologically and cannot but rely militarily on the US turned rogue for battlefield control from space. But what Europe wants is multilateralism. It needs rules to function. There's a lot of talk now about middle powers. What if Europe, Canada, the UK, Japan, India pull together? Can they carry the banner of liberal internationalism, democracy and human rights forward? This is surely delusional. Weighed against the economic costs of transatlanticism and abasement to the MAGA project, for Europe, there is just one other choice, that of negotiating with the global South and with China for a different type of rules-based order of equality and mutual benefit. Can the Europeans abandon their crazed militarism and rediscover the notion of common security advanced by Olaf Palme in the 1970s, and to construct for themselves a new security architecture in Eurasia? These middle powers will no doubt stay in a model for some time. As economic momentum gathers in the global South, will it be strong enough to draw the Europeans and the others into an alternative, negotiated, multipolar trend? The choices are growing more stark. The Bandung vision always understood imperialism was the root cause of war and opposition to imperialism imposition, the foundation for peace. China has now taken the lead in standing up to Trump. The US and the Europeans too have to be taught how to negotiate. And I was going to add one thing more about the Bandung conference, but I think Ben put it far better than I will. We have to understand that it was not a gathering of socialist or socialist-oriented states. Some, like the kingdoms of Afghanistan and Cambodia and the Ethiopian Empire, retained feudalistic trappings. Today, we again need a movement of the broadest unity to draw the line on imperialism's latest coercive term and for a new type of multipolarity as the Bandung envisioned of equality and peace.
I'm Michael Hudson. I'm appearing here for the International Manifesto Group. If you like this video and ones like it, please subscribe. For more information, go to the address on the screen.